So Book Outlet was having a sale. Well, actually, they had two sales, and I couldn't help myself, and I indulged. So today I'm bringing you a rather large book haul, about 20 books or so, plus one late arrival. So stick around to see what they are. Hey friends, Roger here, and welcome to my channel, Roger's Reads. So as I mentioned, I'm doing a book outlet haul today, about 20 books that I received from the sales. One of the sales I participate in every year, and another one came right after that, so I thought, what the heck? And I usually don't buy a lot of books in the winter time, very few actually, so I thought I'll get my book buying out of the way. And of course, I'm not going to buy any more books until I read the ones I have. So let's get cracking. So the first book that I picked up was entitled Before I Go to Sleep, written by S.J. Watson. So, I love stories about memories and such, and reading the blurb, this sounded like it'd be right up my alley. So this follows a young woman named Christine who wakes up every morning in an unfamiliar bed with an unfamiliar man. She looks in the mirror and sees, reflecting back at her, an unfamiliar middle-aged face. And likewise, every day, the man in her bed has to explain that he is her husband, that she is 47 years old, and a terrible accident 2 decades earlier decimated her memory, or I guess should say decimated her ability to form new memories. So every day she begins once again the reconstruction of her past, and the closer she gets to the truth, the more unbelievable it all seems. So I cannot wait to delve into this one. This sounds like exactly the kind of book that I enjoy. So the next book that I picked up was entitled Ink and Bone, and this is written by Rachel Kane. Yes. Now, this is the first book in the Great Library series. It revolves around the Great Library, a ruthless and powerful organization that has a presence in every major city, and it controls the flow of knowledge to the masses. So apparently, alchemy allows the library to deliver the content of the greatest works of history instantly, but in this world, the personal ownership of books is forbidden for some strange reason. So now the main character's name is Jess Brightwell, for whom the majority of his knowledge comes from illegal books from the black market obtained by his family. So Jess has been sent to the Great Library to be his family's spy, but his loyalties are tested in the final months of his training to enter the library service. So apparently his friend creates some sort of device that could change the world, and in the process commits heresy. And supposedly the Great Library is not amused. So it sounds like an interesting book. Now, and I also picked up the second book in this series, which is called Paper and Fire, which is book 2 in the Great Library series. So given that this is the sequel to Ink and Bone, I know absolutely nothing about this book, but I have heard favorable things about this series, so I decided to get both books right away, and they were offered at a hell of a good price, so I figured what the hey. The next book that I picked up is a nonfiction book written by Laurie Duran and is entitled Raising My Rainbow. And this is a heartfelt and supposedly humorous account of her and her family's adventures raising a gender-creative son, her son CJ, who, according to the blurb, is gender variant or gender non-conforming. Actually, I've not come across these terms before, so maybe they're similar to gender fluid or non-binary, so I guess we'll see. So it sounds like an interesting read. Next book I picked up was entitled Sadie by Courtney Summers. So this follows Sadie, who is raising her sister Maddie. But when Maddie is found dead, Sadie's entire world crumbles. So from what I understand, the police botched the investigation, so Sadie decides to hit the road, determined to find her sister's murderer and bring him or her to justice. Now, there's also a radio personality whose name is West McKay, who overhears Sadie's story at a local gas station and becomes obsessed with finding the missing girl. So he starts a podcast as he tracks Sadie's journey, trying to figure out what happened and hoping to find her before it's too late. So I've seen a lot of really favorable reviews about this book, and I've been wanting to pick it up for a while. So I was really excited when I saw that it was on sale. So yeah, Sadie. So next book that I picked up is entitled Stay Sweet by Siobhan Vivian. So this follows Amelia, who for the past 3 years has worked at the Mead Creamery along with her best friend Kate, the local ice cream shop in town, and has always been managed and owned by local girls. So when the owner of the shop, Molly Mead, passes away, Amelia isn't sure that the stand is going to continue on. So then Molly's grandnephew Grady arrives and asks Amelia to stay on to help continue the business. But Grady's got some changes in mind for the shop. So this really sounds like a lighthearted and sweet story, which I'm sometimes in the mood for, especially after reading a few heavy-hitting thrillers in a row. So it sounds like a good book. So the next book that I picked up is entitled The Last of August, written by Brittany Carrera. And this is the second book in the Sherlock Holmes series and follows Jamie Watson and Sherlock Holmes. And I actually picked up the first book not too long ago from Book Outlet, but I haven't gotten to it yet. Whoops. So anyway, in this book, Charlotte's uncle Leander goes missing from the estate after being oddly private about his latest assignment in a Germany art forgery ring. So the game is afoot once again, and Charlotte is single-minded in her pursuit, and off they go to Berlin. And who is their first contact? Moriarty, of course. Yeah, so actually I mentioned I have the first book in this series, which I hope to get to soon, and then I'll continue on with this one.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
So the next book that I picked up from Book Outlet was entitled The Little Shop of Found Things, written by Paula Braxton, I think. Braxton, yes. So book follow. I know it's Roger. So this story follows Xanthi and her mother Flora, who leave London behind to take over an antique shop in the historic town of Marlborough. Now, whenever Xanthi touches antiques, she can sense something about the past that they come from and the stories they hold. So when she has an especially intense connection to an object, she has to know more. It's while she's examining the object that she's transported back to the 17th century and once there has a run-in with a ghost. So given that I love time travel novels and ghost stories, this one sounded right up my alley. So yeah, looking forward to reading it. So the next book I picked up from Book Outlet is entitled The Secret Ingredient of Wishes, and this is written by Susan Bishop Crispell. So this is another magical realism story that follows Rachel Monroe, who has the ability to make wishes come true. And sometimes the consequences are a little bit disastrous. So when Rachel accidentally grants an outlandish wish for the first time in years, she decides that it's time to leave town and her past behind for good. So along the way, she's taken in by an old woman named Catch, who also possesses a strange gift in that she can bind secrets by baking them into pies. But then Rachel runs into a bigger bit of trouble with her wish-granting abilities in the new town, and that's really all I know about this. So it sounds like another light, fun, cozy read. Okay, so I need to move my books, rearrange my books here before the whole shebang falls over. And moving on to my next book, which is entitled Waking Up Dead by Nigel Williams. So apparently George Permain has woken up dead, if the behavior of everyone around him is any indication, and it would appear that his 99-year-old mother has passed away as well. But the kicker is that they could have been both murdered. So when George's family gathers, he hovers around the house, watching and listening entirely unseen. So as a result, he makes all sorts of discoveries about himself, his wife Esmeralda, and his supposedly happy family. So this is supposed to be a fun, cozy mystery that I'm looking forward to reading, and actually it sounds like a hoot. And of course, ghosts. So the next book that I picked up was entitled Bird Box by Josh Mellerman. So this is a series on Netflix, I do believe, but I haven't yet seen it. All I know about this is that there is something out there that is terrifying, something that must not be seen, because one glimpse of it and the person is driven to deadly violence. And I believe that this book follows a few scattered survivors that remain. So I guess it's sort of a dystopian novel. It's supposed to be very good though. And the premise certainly is intriguing. Next up is Denton's Little Death Date, written by Lance Rubin. So this story takes place in a world where everyone knows the day that they are going to die. Kind of like the book They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. So this book follows Denton, who is to die in 2 days, the day of his senior prom. So his final days are filled with dramatic firsts. There is the first hangover, first sex, first love triangle, as apparently the sex seems to have happened not with his girlfriend, but with his best friend's hostile sister. So then Denton freaks out when he discovers a strange purple rash making its way up his body and wonders whether this is what is going to kill him. So then a strange man shows up at his funeral, and I'm assuming in this world you have your funeral before you die, and this man claims to have known Denton's long-deceased mother and warns him to appear suspicious of government characters. So it appears that Denton's life is suddenly filled with mysteries, and he has very little time in which to solve them. So yeah, intriguing premise. Sounds fun. Next up is Dumplin by Julie Murphy. So this follows self-proclaimed fat girl Willow Dean Dixon, I believe. Willow Dean Dixon, also called Dumplin by her mom, who is a former beauty queen. Now Willow Dean has always been right at home and comfortable in her own skin. And then she meets private school Bo, who is a hot former jock, and she finds that she's quite taken by him. But she is surprised when he seems to like her back. So for the first time she begins to doubt herself, and then sets out to take back her confidence by doing the most horrifying thing she can imagine, entering the Miss Clover City beauty pageant. So the book sounds like a lot of fun, and I've heard a lot of good things about it. So the next book that I picked up is entitled Dying for You by Mary Janice Davidson. Now, I've read some other books by this author. They've been a lot of fun, so I really got this without knowing anything about it. All I know is that it is an anthology of 4 novellas of paranormal romance that features an amorous ghost, a witch and a witch hunter, a love-struck psychic, and a vampire and a werewolf. So, sounds like a lot of paranormal fun. So the next book is entitled The Price of Duty by Todd Strasser. So this follows Jake Liddell, son of a military family and a hero who received the Silver Star for his heroic achievements and has just returned back from the war. So now that he's home, he's recovering from an injury and he's finding he's having quite a difficult time fitting back in. He can't sleep, his grandfather is already pressuring him to get back to the battlefield, and there's a young woman who's trying to persuade him into speaking out against military recruitment tactics. So at the moment he just doesn't know what to do, but feels that nothing really makes sense anymore. But one thing he does know is he is convinced he is no hero. So this sounds like quite a heavy book, but I was intrigued by the synopsis. And this is definitely a departure from the kind of books that I usually read, but I'm looking forward to checking it out. So next up is a book entitled Questions I Want to Ask You by Michelle Folkoff, I believe, yes. So this follows a young man named Patrick Walsh who's pretty happy with his life. That is, until his 18th birthday, when a letter from a mother he's never known arrives and changes everything. So he hits the road searching for a family he had no idea existed until this point in his life. And his journey ends up unearthing questions about both of his parents that he never saw coming. So yeah, I like the premise of this. The blurb sounded quite interesting, so I thought I'd give it a chance. We're getting near the end. So next up is a book entitled Speak by Laurie Halls Anderson. So the story follows Melinda, a high school student who is pretty much a friendless outcast because she busted an end-of-the-year summer party by calling the cops. So now nobody will talk to her, let alone listen to her or listen to her side of the story. So she becomes increasingly more isolated and practically stops talking altogether to anyone. Only her art class offers any solace, and it's through her work on an art project that she's finally able to face what really happened to her at that terrible party and reminds her that the threat is still out there. So when another encounter occurs, this time Melinda fights back and refuses to be silent, thereby achieving a measure of vindication. So definitely a hard-hitting contemporary here, but it sounds like a good story. So the next book about this is entitled Struck by Lightning, written by Chris Colfer. So this follows an outcast high school senior named Carson Phillips, who blackmails the most popular students in his high school into contributing to his literary journal to help bolster his college application. As it turns out, his goal in life is to get into Northwestern University and to eventually become editor of The New Yorker. So this sounds like one of those books where a student is willing to do anything to get into college, apparently including blackmail in this case. So then I'm guessing all sorts of zany hijinks ensue, as this is supposed to be quite a humorous novel. So I will report back once I've read it. And the next book that I picked up is entitled A Body in the Woods, written by April Henry. So this is the first book in a young adult mystery series, and it's told from multiple perspectives. 3 teen members of a search and rescue team, Alexis, Ruby, and Nick, who, while searching for a missing autistic man, instead end up finding a dead body. So the 3 of them team up to find the girl's killer before he can strike one of their own. So I love a good mystery and was intrigued by the synopsis, but I'm really hoping that this is not one of those series that ends on a cliffhanger, because if it does, I'll be really pissed. So we'll see. The penultimate book that I picked up is entitled The Couple Next Door, written by Sherry Lapina. So I read and loved another book by this author, which was entitled An Unwanted Guest. So I was really excited to stumble across another book by them. So this follows Annie and Marco Conti, who seem to have a loving relationship, a wonderful home, and their beautiful baby Cora. But one night, when they're at a dinner party next door, a terrible crime is committed. So suspicion immediately focuses on the parents, but I guess that the truth is a much more complicated story. So then an unsettling account of what actually happened unfolds, and the detective in charge of the case knows that the panicked couple is hiding something in the process. And Anna and Marco soon discover that the other is keeping secrets that they have kept for years. So this is supposedly a tale of deception, duplicity, and unfaithfulness, with plenty of shocking twists as the family begins to unravel. So I really can't wait. And last, I picked up, actually just got it in the mail yesterday, which is Wayward Sons by Rainbow Rowell, which is a sequel to her other book, Carry On. And again, I know that Simon Snow is a character in this. I'm not sure if Baz is. Yes, Baz. Simon, Penny, and Baz. And it's pretty much all I know about this book. I didn't really want to know too much going in. So, yeah, there's that. So that is my book outlet book haul. Hopefully that'll be the last one for a while. We'll see. So as always, I thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all your support. And if you like this video, I'd appreciate if you click the like button below as it helps my channel out. So that about does it. I will talk to you in the next video. Roger and out.